As a teacher, whether you know it or not, you have a set of tools or strategies that you use to manage the students and your classrooms throughout the school year. However, there are a certain set of tools and strategies that you tend to pull out, especially in the first month of school. So in today's video, I will be sharing some classroom management tools and strategies that I think you should use, especially in the first month of school. Stay tuned. Hey, teacher friends, I'm Michelle Holliday. I'm a behavior strategist, and I help teachers, schools, and youth-based organizations with strategies, systems, and tips to help them manage their classroom and students with less stress and less struggle. So in today's video, we're talking about classroom tools and strategies that you could use in the first month of school. So let's get started. Management tool number one, a class meeting. Now, a class meeting, whether you call it a morning meeting, a community circle, you can use your mascot, call it a Jaguar circle or a Jaguar talk, whatever you call it, it's really a platform to discuss behaviors, social interactions, maybe even plans and activities that are happening in your classroom. So here are some tips on how to effectively use this tool. Number one, try to have these meetings on a regular basis. Now, based on your grade level or the needs of your classroom, you can have these meetings every day, every week, twice a month, or monthly, as long as it's something that happens on a regular basis. This way, you know, and your students know that you have this space or this platform to talk about things that are happening in the classroom. Number two, don't use your class meetings for just negative situations, but also positive situations. This is a great time to give voice to students who have improved academically, behaviorally, or socially in your classroom. Number three, allow for your students to be heard. This means that this is not just an opportunity for you to talk and the students to listen, but this is an opportunity for everyone to listen and for everyone to practice listening, practice hearing different opinions and different ideas, practice giving feedback on what they've heard. All of this is important for the academic space as well. So allow your students to be heard. They will feel like they belong and their behavior should improve. And number four, you want to set boundaries or ground rules for these meetings. So talk to your students about what it should look like, what it should sound like, what's allowed, and what's not allowed. Because if you leave it up to your students, anything could happen. So definitely set the ground rules ahead of time, put them in writing, allow your students to know before each meeting what you expect from the group. Tool number two, a reward system. I truly believe that effective classroom management includes a way to reinforce or strengthen the behaviors you want to see. So that means setting up a reward system in your classroom. Now, here are some tips on how to implement that. First of all, understand that there are different types of rewards or reinforcers. Not everything is tangible. Some of them can be activity-based, some of them can be verbally or visually based, and of course, you have the tangible things. Tip number two is if your budget does not allow for you to purchase things for your reward system, then focus on things that are free. When it was reinforcement time, I allowed my students to choose different activities in the classroom that they could participate in for a designated amount of time. And why I loved it was because it was free. Tip number three, start with low-level reinforcers. So if your students are motivated by verbal praise alone, then stick with verbal praise. There's no need to go out and get these big major things. However, you do need to meet your students where they are. For some of them, it may look like stickers. For others, it may be like the punch cards. So start with the low level first and see if that will give you the results you need. If not, then slowly start to increase or add on things that may cost you a little something in terms of effort, time, or money. Tool number three, a consequence system. I believe if you're going to reinforce, then there also needs to be consequences, i.e. a balance. So start to think of what are some ways that I can discourage misbehavior or repeat misbehavior in my classroom. So here are some tips for using that tool. First of all, what I want you to do is rethink a consequence from what you're doing to the student as opposed to what the students have earned based on their choice. A lot of teachers tend to communicate consequences as something I'm doing to the student or something I'm taking away from the student. But what if it was really about the student did B, therefore they earned C? So it's really about the student choice more than what you are imposing upon a student. Tip number 2, consequences do not have to be or feel like punishment, because the goal is not to punish. The goal is to discourage the behavior from happening. If it feels like punishment to the student, that might be something you can't control. But what I'm saying to you is don't try to say, how can I punish this student and make them do what I want them to do? I think you're coming from the wrong starting place when you start to think and do things like that. And tip number 3, I know that in some schools and school districts, they don't advocate taking things away from the student. And if that's where you are, please understand that a consequence can also be what a student did not earn, or when a student owes some time to you based on the time they wasted talking or not doing work or being disruptive. And finally, tip number 4, routines. Yes, routines are a tool that you can use for your classroom management. My tip for routines are really simple. Find out which ones are the core routines that your students need to master, especially in that first month of school, and practice that on a regular basis. If you have to put it in your schedule, put it in your schedule. 4 reasons why I love routines is that it provides structure, it allows for smooth operations in your classroom, it promotes productivity, and it provides safety in a lot of ways. So let's recap. What are the 4 tools that you really want to pull out in that first month of school? Number 1, a class meeting. Number 2, a reward system. Number 3, a consequence system. And number 4, make sure you have those routines in place. In the comments below, tell me which tool you have in the bag, meaning which tool is really easy for you and which tool may be difficult for you to implement. I love to hear your thoughts and ideas, and I will see you in the next video.